Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal International. We'll begin with our top stories. Attacks on civilians blamed on the Nigerian-based Islamist group Boko Haram are in the rise across Cameroon's far north region. Over the past few days, there has been a marked frequency of killings. We'll tell you more in this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language. And DOUALA say it's imperative for the city council to demolish buildings with threats of collapse or completely dilapidated structures in order to save lives of Cameroonians. Birds maintain the city council should think of resettling them elsewhere, especially those with building permits. And Cameroon has been ranked fourth in the CEMAC zone with the highest beer consumption rate. This study has been made public by WISE, voter digital platform on beer consumption in the world. And Nigerians residing in Cameroon have started streaming via embassy to pay tribute to the late former President Henri Bedie following his demise last August 1, 2023. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. Attack on civilians blamed on the Nigerian Islamist group Boko Haram are in the rise across Cameroon's far north region. Over the past few days, there has been a marked frequency in killings. As a reporter, Tarique Divine Jr. tells us more.
At least a dozen people are now known to have been killed in a fresh spate of attacks in the far north. Civilians at Darak, a fishing island on Cameroon's northern border with Chad and Nigeria. Boko Haram insurgents are believed to be responsible for the rising frequency of the deadly incursions. Military officials say troops have been deployed to stop more attacks by the Nigeria-based Islamic group. Meanwhile, civilians are reportedly escaping to safer locations, considering that residents of Darak and various parts of the region had not experienced Boko Haram atrocities for groups of islands on the Lake Chad in the Logon and Shari division. The locality has often served as a rare base for the group's terrorists. According to a local official source, the terrorists have even introduced taxation who live in fear of murder or kidnapping.
And do of collapse or completely dilapidated, the council should think of economic city DOUALA. Let's watch.
Here, even at a distance, one can easily identify structures on the verge of collapse or those that have fast degraded with time. The buildings are an eyesore, but still occupied by Cameroonians whose life might seem on the balance. Threats of collapse that continue to be ignored. On the streets, city dwellers maintain such degraded or fast dilapidated structures should have its occupants chased out and the buildings destroyed. They condone the actions of the city council on the immediate demolition of such structures.
At the virtue of collapsing, I think if the city council is destroying that one, it's for the security of the people, and to me, I think it's a good thing.
It's normal for the city council to demolish structures with threats of collapse in brick zones because firstly, it's for the goods of the population.
There are some people who live at risk but they don't know, and the city council is to protect his citizens. If the city council should discover that you living in this house one day die, then the government will lose, he better brooks the house.
On the other hand, another problem poses that of resettlement, especially if the occupants have nowhere else to go to. Others decried absence of compensation and costs of lodging. All problematics that resurface at the city council take people off buildings described as death traps.
The first thing is to break the house while looking for where they should stay.
Whether the demolition is done on short notice or on large time-bomb buildings in the city of DOUALA.
And the private sector has started responding to the call of the Prime Minister with contributions for the reconstruction plan of the Northwest and Southwest regions for Cameroon. A donation of hundreds of millions of francs CFA have been received from PCAM and a memorandum of understanding with the Islamic Development Bank worth over 20 million francs CFA equally signed in Yaoundé to boost the process. More with our reporter, Aisencha.
The government of Cameroon has frequently expressed worries over limited funds that can permit the fast reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions. And in 2021, the Prime Minister made a clarion call to the private sector to give financial or material push to the process, a call well received by PCAM that handed over an envelope of 250 million CFA francs to the head of government on July 31st as support for the drive.
We came as PCAM to give our support to all the initiatives that the state of Cameroon is doing to rebuild these areas. As financial institutions, we thrive when the economies of our countries thrive.
And in the same light, the Islamic Development Bank has equally pumped in the sum of 21,154 million CFA francs at the disposal of the reconstruction plan. The memorandum of understanding here signed by the Deputy National Coordinator of the UNDP, Alassane Ba.
I would like to thank the government of Cameroon, PCAM and Islamic Development Bank for quality of partnership.
The resources highly lauded by the National Coordinator of the Presidential Plan, describing it as a sigh of relief for the affected population.
You can imagine the gratitude we have when private companies come together to put their hand on deck for us to succeed in making life better for the people who have been suffering most from this crisis.
And addressing the donors, the Prime Minister, Joseph Dion Gote, reiterated that the funds will greatly foster the development process in the crisis zones, as he called on others to emulate the gesture.
The Cameroon English language newspapers have called on the President of the Republic to create special fund for dying English language newspaper. They made a call while on a 2 days workshop in Abolowa in the south region of Cameroon to sharpen their skills on media management and sustainability. More in the following story.
The crisis is on in the Northwest and Southwest regions, and for over 6 years, the economy and social activities have had a serious blow. One of the sectors adversely affected is the Anglophone print media.
The crisis in the Northwest that has gone on for 6 years has seriously affected the English print media because they are used to advertise in newspapers in English, have all been crippled by the crisis, and so we are barely surviving.
Anglophone publishers frown at governments for looking away while the English language newspapers are going down the drain.
Despite the difficulties we are facing, we have shown a lot of maturity and professionalism in reporting on the crisis. We all agree that we could have been manipulated, to go to the Radio Me Collins in Rwanda. All of us know what role that media organ, the contribution they made in the Rwandan genocide.
The pleas on the President of the Republic to save the dying Anglophone press by creating a special fund to assist English-speaking print media.
We are making a plea to the head of state to create a special fund to assist the English language newspapers.
Most of them who were based in the Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon have now moved to other regions, notably DOUALA and Yaoundé, because of the Anglophone crisis, which is actually a big problem for this sector.
Members of the Cameroon English Language Newspapers Publishers Association, SENPA, are meeting in a workshop in Abolowa, South region of Cameroon. For 2 days, that is August 3 and 4, they are expected to sharpen skills on media management and sustainability.
And Cameroon has been ranked fourth in the CEMAC zone with the highest beer consumption rate. The study has been made public by Wise Voter digital platform on beer consumption in the world. Saleh Sherifa completes that story.
In the morning, during the day, and in the evening, beer parlors and off-license are full with customers consuming beer. According to them, beer is the best thing to share. No need to wait for International Beer Day. Some say their consumption frequency depends on their budget. It's something I have been consuming since my tender age. Right now, I can even finish 2 crates of beer. There are times I am stressed up with work and not in my good mood. When I consume 1 to 3 bottles of beer, I feel better and strong enough to resume work. Many beer consumers are already addicted and find it difficult to quit. According to the 2023 classification of Wise Voter digital platform on beer consumption in the world, Cameroon occupies 4th position in the CEMAC zone with a consumption capacity of 2.36 liters per person. Equatorial Guinea is first, Congo second, while Gabon.
And in the extension of our sequence on the week for breastfeeding, the newsroom today zooms on the lessons nursing mothers receive on the recommended breastfeeding techniques. The lessons were dispatched today in a workshop organized by the Association of Midwives in Cameroon under the theme enabling breastfeeding, making a difference for working parents. Our reporter, high censure and student journalist Chelsea Konan in the following story highlights major issues of the session today. Your story.
Songs of sensitization as these midwives re-echo on the need of breastfeeding babies within the prescribed time frame of at least 6 months. With tender-aged babies in their arms being breastfed, they listen to lectures on the importance of exclusive breastfeeding to the children and the entire family.
We have organized this workshop to sensitize mothers on their baby's nutrition. That is why, especially after childbirth, we start giving them lessons.
But busy working schedule alongside insufficient maternity leave that modern women face have proven to be a slowing factor to exclusive breastfeeding. With such a reality, these women were also sensitized on the techniques of expressing and conserving breast milk.
We made them understand that despite the fact that they are workers, they can still continue to properly breastfeed their babies exclusively for 6 months. We will also plead in their place for spaces to be provided for them to breastfeed freely when they are at work.
Hygiene and sitting posture while breastfeeding were also areas of concern. Some common beliefs and preoccupations surrounding the topic were clarified with the mothers going back home with much learned.
It was very rich. We have learned how to position the breast while breastfeeding because it is one of the difficulties faced by mothers. I can properly breastfeed my child by positioning my hands and breast where they are supposed to be.
Commemorated every first week of August, the World Breastfeeding Week aims at highlighting the numerous benefits that the exercise can bring to both the health and growth of babies.
And Ivorians residing in Cameroon have started streaming in their embassy to pay tribute to the former president, Henri Bedie, following his demise last August 1, 2020. This is in line with the trend of the national mourning announced by the current president, Alassane Ouattara. The picture of this Friday at the embassy in Yaoundé with our reporter, Beatrice Ngam.
3 days after the demise of former President Henri Bedie, Côte d'Ivoire embassy in Yaoundé has put on her mourning colors.
The national flag flying at half-mast as a mark of respect for the fallen statesman. Inside, a special corner has been arranged for the memorial candle with a picture of the deceased. It is here that Ivorians residing in Cameroon have been paying their tribute. The mission by some 4 Ivorian students studying in Yaoundé for what he represents for Côte d'Ivoire and what he has built for the country. In his 6 years of rule, from 1993 to 1999, these giants of African politics contributed in building the continent. The existence of the Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa, OHADA, today an example. The memory I'm keeping is that of someone who knows how to try his luck in life, where he can give his contribution, and who effectively played his game till the very end. The love for the fallen veteran politician, reason for the 10 days of mourning, announced by the acting president Alassane Ouattara, the ambassador of Côte d'Ivoire to Cameroon, says, alongside other changes. The National Day feast has been postponed. A condolence book has been opened at the embassy for testimonies on the great actions of President Henri Bedie. He was a man of peace, hardworking, who, with Félix Houphouët-Boigny, built a modern Côte d'Ivoire. Like other memories, is his concept of ivoirité, a nationalist cultural identity policy. Though overthrown in the country's first ever coup d'etat in 1999, 24 years later, the late Henri Konan Bedie still had appetite for the presidential race.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Prime Time Newscast, the English language on Canal International. Thanks so much for watching. But coming up next is the brief with Mathieu Fangwa. As for me, we'll be back same time, but this time around on Monday. Good night.